Hey and welcome. In today's video we are going to make this straight neck or square neck ruffle top. And again, before we start we need a plan, therefore I kind of visualized my vision. So here you can see what I want to have is this top with some straps. And by the way, my fabric is muslin fabric. I don't know if I wrote that right, but I also want to have a straight neck, and we are going to attach a side zipper in at the side, and we also want to have ruffles. By the way, I'm using some leftovers from another project so that we do not waste any fabric but make something new out of it. And for reference, those are my measurements. So my fabric is 30 centimeters wide and 142 centimeters long. And down here I showed you how I arranged my pattern pieces. So first up we need one upper front piece, that's this here. I also wrote down some things on that, but more to that later. Then we need a back piece, and the whole piece down there will be this ruffle part, because it needs to be very long so that we can ruffle it, and then it will be even shorter. And therefore you just see how long your waist is. In my case that's 82, because 40 for the front and 42 for the back. And normally you would do 82 times 2.5 for the ruffling, but in my case I couldn't do that, so I just worked with the length that I had, which was 142 centimeters. Yeah, and then as I said, we have the upper front piece, the back piece, and then we also need lining pieces. So first up, one for the front, one for the back, and then we also need 2 straps. And here, if you want to, you can take a screenshot. There are all measurements that I use. They most probably do not fit for you, but just for reference. And since I didn't use a pattern that is already existing or that I bought, I did it by myself, and there are 3 options on how you can design such patterns. First of all, you could use a dress form if you have one, and therefore you just lay or bring the fabric in that positions that you want it to be, and then you just mark the lines, for example the side seam and so on. If you do not have a dress form, you could kind of pin it to a t-shirt on yourself, because then it will really fit and you do the same exact thing. Or you could use the measurement method, so just measure some important things like how long you want the neckline to be, the underbust seam and so on, and then you kind of just connect those lines together, and there you have a pattern. By the way, in my case I used kind of all 3 methods, and then I had an example and then I tried that on, and I saw it didn't really fit because I'm not a pro at all. And so I changed some things, and this is what I came up with at the end. And as you can see, then I just wrote some things down, and also I did not use another pattern piece for the back and the straps, but just wrote them down because they are just rectangles, so I wrote down the measurements. And here you can once again see the fabric pieces that I cut out from the pattern pieces, but I'll skip through it because I already explained that. And by the way, for the lining you can kind of decide how long you want it to be, but I think 3 to 4 centimeters should be enough. And by the way, we also need to add a zipper, and I also added a label that it is linked down in the description box. I use a zipper because muslin is not stretchy, but if you use jersey you do not need a zipper. So now we start to sew. So first of all, we are going to fold the straps in half, right sides facing. Right sides means that the beautiful sides do look at each other, and then you are just going to sew with a straight stitch, or overlock the edges, or do a straight stitch and then zigzag stitch the raw edges. And then you also need to line up the front and the back, and the front lining and the back lining right sides facing. And now look at those red arrows. You need to sew this and the right and the left side, but only one side because we need to fold it open. In my case, I did the mistake by sewing the right and the right side on both sides. Just if you're wondering, we only sew one side because we are going to attach the zipper to the other side. And here I'm trying to show you that I do not have a matching overlock thread, which is why I try to keep a distance from the straight line thread so that you cannot see it on the right side. And then I'm using such a loop turner, by the way, it's also linked down in the description box, to turn the straps inside out. If you do not have one, don't worry, you could also use a safety pin. In the meantime, I realized my mistake and sewed the other side closed and at the lining. So therefore now we can line up the lining and the normal pieces right sides facing together. And then you only just attach the lining to the normal piece by sewing with a straight stitch all the way around those edges, so just the top corner. And after that we are going to iron that as well as the straps, and then I, as you can see, ironed it, and I also top stitched the straps. And by the way, I'm leaving those edges open because we need to attach the straps. For the straps you could also leave some holes open, but in my case I just seam ripped them when I attached the straps. In the meantime, I prepared our ruffle piece, therefore I folded one edge twice, ironed it, and now we are going to top stitch along the whole edge. Here's now how it should look like, and as you can see, it's giving a very clean look. We love that. And what I also did in that step is to just sew with a normal thread stitch the upper edge. And as you can see, it already created that ruffles. And what you are going to do is to not backstitch at the beginning or at the end of the seam, because then you are going to separate those two threads, which are the underwire and the upper thread. And then you can only pull on one thread, and then you can create more ruffles. And then you just keep creating those ruffles up until you reach the point where the upper piece and our ruffle piece have the same length. And what I found very kind of helpful in that situation was to tie some knots at the beginning and at the end of the seam, so that the length does not change, but now you can make those ruffles even, and it just looks much nicer. And now with right sides facing, we are going to attach those two pieces. So just line them up, as I said, right sides facing, and sew with a normal straight stitch along this edge. By the way, in that step it's very helpful to pin those in place. And here's now how it looks like. I think those ruffles do look very cute in my opinion. And as you can see here, I overlocked all the raw edges. That prevents that the fabric is fraying, and also it just looks much nicer. Now it's time to attach the straps, therefore just turn it inside out kind of and attach the straps, so pin them in place and then sew along the edges, and then you just try the top on and see how long and where you want your straps to go in the back, and then you just attach that there as well, and then you have your straps. And now that we want to finish the top, the sun came out. That's an amazing sign. So as you can see, I also overlocked, or you could also zigzag stitch, the raw edges where we are going to attach the zipper, so that there are no threads that are going to distract the zipper. And I also zigzag stitched the label so that that also doesn't fray. So now you take your zipper. By the way, mine is a hidden zipper. I also linked some down below. And then you need to attach the zipper. First of zip it up, and then you can see there is such a tiny kind of stopper, and we will need that part to sit right below under that seam that we created right there. And then I'm pinning the zipper right sides facing all the way down. And if you then kind of turn it to the right side, you can see that's now how it should look like. And then again, right sides facing and making sure that the stopper just sits right below the seam. We are going to attach it to the other side as well. And if you are a bit unsure, just zip up the zipper and then you can see whether you did it right or you need to once again redo it. And by the way, when working with a zipper, it's always much cleaner and easier to work with the extra presser foot for zippers. Here's now how it looks like, and as you can see, all the seams line up perfectly, which is exactly what we want. And here's now how I kind of finished the lower edge. I made sure that I sew the straight stitch along the zipper, which is extremely important because I just cut off the excess, and then you need to make sure that there is a kind of end so that the zipper doesn't get out. And now for the final step, we are going to finish those upper edges here so that we have a clean look, as we already have on the right side where I already did that step. And for that step, it's actually quite easy. You cut off the excess zipper up here that is reaching in the lining kind of, but obviously do not cut off the stopper because it's important to stop the zipper. And now I think it's just easier, just watch it. I try to explain what I did here. So you just lay the lining onto your zipper part and then sew along this line, and in that way you get this nice clean edge that I already showed you at the other side. And that's actually it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. Make sure to rate this video and to subscribe to my channel to not miss out any further videos. And now here comes the final reveal. See you next time. Bye!